Okay, welcome to Into the Channel, episode 3. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to partake. Follow us on X or Twitter, ITC_pod. I am your host, Dino and and I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel. What is up, man?
I'm feeling fantastic, my good man. That was 2 great days of football that we got to enjoy. And while there is still plenty to play for, we also have some things coming into focus in the 4 groups. So I think we just have a lot more to kind of dig into and a lot still to happen before the knockout stage.
Yeah, 100%. Some surprises, some results that were a little bit less surprising, but I mean, great first couple of match weeks and very excited to get into it. Where are you going to get started?
Let's go reverse alphabetical order. I feel like that kind of suits like the interesting results, the big teams. So let's start with Group D. Chelsea Football Club versus Paris FC. Chelsea 4, Paris 1. We're going to get into the specifics of the game here, but as kind of an overall main thing that I took away from the match was Chelsea has a big 3. Some could argue they have a big 4, big 5, big 6, but they had a big 3 that was way too tough for Paris FC. But let's start with a big piece of news that broke the day before the match when Emma Hayes, future U.S. Women's National Team coach, announced that Millie Bright was like 50-50 to even appear in the match. So here's what she said during that press conference. Quote, "Preparation going into the World Cup wasn't ideal. She probably rushed herself back, and she's also come back after the World Cup and quickly into the Chelsea season. Perhaps she needed a little bit longer. Her knee is a little bit angry at the minute. It is not anything too detrimental. We're just listening to her body. We're going to take decisions on a day-to-day basis." Not super what you want to hear about your captain, your stalwart center half. So with that as a backdrop, I think everybody knew that Chelsea's other players, other stars, were going to need to carry the load. And they did. Sam Kerr opened up the scoring in the 30th minute. Lauren James had just a brilliant move to cut the ball inside and then hit a pinpoint cross right into Kerr's path. Kerr had to use a good scorer's touch to finish it, but that was probably 75% of the way done from Lauren James' move. And I think that kind of set the tone right away.
Yeah, I mean, unreal pass, unreal vision from Lauren James. Easily one of the best 2 passes of the match, which is unbelievable because this one in itself was otherworldly. In the NFL, American football, for all of our worldies, there's a concept called throwing a receiver open, which is essentially turning a covered or marked player into an unmarked or open player by the sheer geometry of the pass. And that's exactly what LJ did here. And like I said, just out of this world. I mean, the vision, Sam Kerr, like on the run, she just kind of does like a couple low key points up in the air. And the bend on the pass, the finish was great too. Still a lot of work to do for Sam Kerr, but that's Chelsea at their best.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what Kerr has, is that you put that pinpoint pass on her knowing that she has a lot to do, and she's going to do it because that's exactly what she does pretty consistently. But I will say, I think back there a minute ago, I said, Chelsea jumped on him right away. That goal didn't happen until the 30th minute, and I thought Paris FC, they stood pretty tall in the first half.
Yep.
They were able to equalize 10 minutes later when French fullback Thea Graboval hit a looping header off a corner kick that maybe could have been saved, I think. A looping header is tough. You and I love a good looping header, but she pops it up. It's over the keeper's head. Jess Carter is standing right there, and she tries to get it out there, and she just bounces it right up into the net. But Graboval's header was on target. She did pretty much everything that she had to do in that moment. And we went into halftime 1-1, which I think if you're Paris FC and you kind of look at each other in the locker room, you should be pretty psyched about that.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree on Paris FC's like live nature, up to that point, including up through the equalizer. For the match, Chelsea was at 10 shots with 6 on target. Paris FC 9 shots with 5 on target. So this one was pretty even, except where it counted that very last touch.
Yeah, for sure. And after the half, Chelsea, specifically Sam Kerr, Lauren James, and Johanna Kaynard, they came out firing on all cylinders. This is where the big 3 really kind of muscled up. Kerr scored again in the 48th minute. There was a 2-pass combination from Lauren James to Fran Kirby over to Johanna Kaynard, who then played about as perfect of a pass as a human being could possibly play, again, right into Sam Kerr's path. Sam Kerr had to get the finishing touch right, and of course, she did. Then we get little circus hours, little Cirque du Soleil, little Harlem Globetrotters, whatever you want to call how this goal happens. Kerr's on a hat trick. So the goalkeeper, Berger, she plays a deep pass dead center of the pitch. Like Kerr is running over the middle line or the center spot through midfield. Takes a good bounce for her. Maybe you could say the defender could have done more in that spot. Doesn't matter. Inadozie, Paris FC's Nigerian goalkeeper, she is in a spot where I don't think she probably should have been, like near the top of the 18. And Sam Kerr, just a little touch, little rainbow. Inadozie's totally compromised in her positioning. She can't get to it. Just a total like mind bender of like, wait, what? Like if you look away for 2 seconds there, you have no idea how the goal occurs.
Yeah, it reminded me of what you were saying about Katoto and her chance to kind of loop one in, which to me looked a lot easier than what Sam Kerr did. Like the sheer angle of the Sam Kerr goal was just filthy. Like, I mean, that was just an impossible angle. And she barely thought twice about it. She was like, tap, tap, poop, just popped it up and just like, oh, that's going in. Very Steph Curry of Sam Kerr. That was super duper impressive. And just what a way to kind of hat trick in style.
Yeah, unbelievable. And so, we talk about Lauren James a lot on this podcast, and she played well. She had incredible passes throughout the match, just dragging defenders with her pretty much all over the pitch. But Johanna, and I think I said her name wrong earlier. It's Canreed, I believe it is. Johanna Canreed. She was a goddamn menace throughout the game, just taking on defenders, pushing the ball downfield, playing the right pass pretty much every time she had the ball. She was so hard to deal with. And like I said about Lauren James, when you have her on the pitch too, every defender has to freak out every time Lauren James is moving into a position to get the ball. And then you just have Canreed going exactly wherever she wants to. They were just way too much. And even with that, I know I said you could argue that Chelsea has a big 4 or a big 5. Fran Kirby is one of the better number 10s in the world. Now, she did not get her World Cup shine because she had a knee injury. I think it was like in May or something like that, before the World Cup even started. It might have been March. And so she didn't get those World Cup moments for England. I'll spare you my theories on England wins the World Cup if Fran Kirby plays. Not important right now. But she is fucking incredible. And she's coming on as a super sub as she's kind of looking to get into better form as things go. So if she starts to play, 60 minutes, 70 minutes, for Chelsea, other teams in the tournament are going to have to look and think how they're going to be able to break that connective passing tissue that Chelsea really plays with.
Yeah, totally agree on Canard and also Kirby as well. So watching Chelsea without Kirby, you kind of felt like we needed to wait a bit until someone in their front three had the ball, to like really lock in. Yep. But now, like when Kirby's got it, it's absolute game on. So last note on this one, I'm not counting Paris FC out just yet. I think they'll be heard from at some point in these next 4 matches, even if it's in the spoiler role. Next up, Paris FC's got Real Madrid, who I haven't read all the way through the show notes, but I believe we might have something coming up on them later. And Chelsea faced the new giant killers, BK Hacken. And speaking of...
Let's talk about them. Let's talk about BK Hacken and Real Madrid. So BK Hacken 2, Real Madrid 1. The main thing I took away from this match was that BK Hacken just put in a professional performance. They did exactly what was required to win, and they didn't do anything more than that. Now, I'll say, Madrid didn't exactly go out there and get washed either. BK Hacken, they had to earn this. But the match started, unsurprisingly, with Olga Carmona just being an incredible player, just being probably the best single player on the pitch for the majority of the time she was out there. She was the most impactful fullback against Chelsea in match day 1. So, of course, naturally in this match, she was just playing up top at left wing, just doing whatever. And so at the 10-minute mark, their other world-class fullback, Ivana Andres for Real Madrid, she hits a rocket off the post. Signe Brun is in perfect position to get the rebound and tap it in. Keeper had no chance to recover. 1-0 Madrid, 10 minutes in. And I don't think it's wrong to say that a lot of other clubs would have been completely shook in that moment.
Yeah, 100% co-sign that. And I think in watching this one, it did feel like once Brun scores, it kind of took on that, well, all right, you know what time it is kind of feel about it. And I think you're kind of waiting for the floodgates a little bit, but credit to Hackett, they hung in.
For sure. It was totally reasonable to believe that, Olga and Andres would have been able to really just dominate the ball, dominate possession, wear down Hacken. But Hacken had a ton of fight. in them. So let me talk about Hacken's back line here, because I think they deserve a lot of credit. So going from right to left, they have Katarina Kusala, we'll talk about her later, Josephine Rybrink, Avi Luke, and Elma Nelic, who all stayed organized, didn't panic after the early goal. I think it was just a really great performance by those back four. Olga nearly scored again later in the match. She was about 23 yards out, hit a phenomenal shot, hit the post. She had Jennifer Falk, Hacken's keeper, completely beaten. Just a little unlucky there. I thought the announcer had a great line, and he was just like 6 inches of the post, and it took every bit of it to keep that shot out of there. And so after halftime, this is where the adjustment came in that I thought was really fucking great from Hacken, is that they just started to play a little more direct. They're like, let's just take it upfield. If we're going to have a little difficulty kind of building possession through the midfield, let's just kick it over the top, try to use some of our strength and skill that way. And they eventually got there. So in the 59th minute, Anna Abnegard, she played the ball into the middle of the box over the top toward center forward Felicia Schrader from about 40 yards out. The two Madrid defenders who get in there, they only get a slight touch, and in rolls in Rosa Cavaggi from just inside the 18, who hits a laser into the bottom right of the net. And again, credit to the announcer who yells, quote, Rosa Cavaggi, remember the name, which I think is just a great thing to yell out when you're commentating on a football match. And I thought it was excellent foreshadowing by him, and I think Cavaggi is a real player.
Yeah, he nailed it. I want to rewind a little bit to Olga's close call. That one was obviously incredible and obviously terrifying if you're a Hacken fan. But that was just one of like a handful of almost goals for Las Blancas in that one. And I talked about sort of like getting the feeling that had they gotten to 2-0, I think the entire complexion of the match changes. And I think as it stood, with Hacken being able to stay within striking distance pretty much the entire match, like either it was 0-0 or they were just down the one goal and holding the fort until they equalized. And then I think once they withstood kind of like that early barrage where most teams, we saw a couple this past match week, where most teams kind of wilt a little bit, they really kind of held strong mentally, were able to kind of like stay 100% locked into the match and essentially outlast Madrid in this one.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, like, it might sound a little trite when I phrase it this way, but the difference between being down 1-0 and kind of shaking off some close calls, and then even if you're down 2-0 early and you could tell yourself we have time to get back into it, that second one to go down 2-0 usually feels pretty close to a death blow. So yeah, they kept their head about them, which I thought was really impressive. And I mentioned they're playing over the top more after that. After halftime, they get the equalizer. Madrid, they're still doing Madrid things. They are holding the ball. They're trying to build through possession. And then in the 76th minute, Cavaggi takes the ball downfield, strong push down the field, plays a good pass across the field to the aforementioned right back, Katarina Kusola, who added to her excellent defensive performance by cutting the ball in onto her left foot and just firing a shot that curls perfectly into the top left corner. And that looked like a damn forward the way she played the whole possession.
Yeah, that was badass.
Yeah, I mean, stunning to see from your right back. That's a nice little tool to have in the bag. And I just think all this kind of added up to me just looking at Hacken. And let me say one more quick word on their stadium. I like the look of it. It's really compact. I know I always make the IKEA jokes every time I mention this Swedish team, but it's just like, it was loud in there. The crowd was into it. The stands were full. Like, it was just a really good atmosphere in there too. And all these things had me sitting there like, this is a real challenging team to play, especially if you have to go up there to Sweden to play them. And they're going to be prepared. They're going to be smart, and they're not going to panic. If you are in a group with Real Madrid and Chelsea, you're just going to have all of those qualities if you're going to try to push through to the knockout stage.
Yeah, and I think you did call out the weather last week. It did look like it was a little bit of a factor, especially as Madrid's kind of like knocking on the door, can't quite break through or get the second one. Then they give up the equalizer, and then now it's like, feels like the temperature drops a couple more degrees, and the floor feels a little harder once when you land on it. I think it definitely played a little bit of a factor, made it a little bit tough on them. What's the schedule looking like next for these Group D squads?
Well, that's where we get into this, is because of the Chelsea-Madrid draw on match day 1, Hacken has 2 wins. They're sitting on 6 points, and they are going to Stamford Bridge on December 14th. And I gotta think that game is going to be a fucking banger.
Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Chelsea, obviously the more talented side, and they're at home.
Sure.
But Hacken's in peak form right now. And it seems like the stiffer their competition's gotten, the better they seem to be playing. What's wild in this one is even if Hacken can just earn a draw here, they'd still be 2 points clear alone at the very top of Group D halfway through.
I'm saying.
So Chelsea, BK Hacken, absolute must watch. Looks like that one is going down Thursday, December 14th, 3 p.m. Eastern. So we will be locked into that, I am sure.
And, we mentioned it in the preview. I think we talked a little bit about it after match day 1. No more league games for Sweden. So for the Swedish league. So now Hacken gets to kind of rest. We do the whole rest first rust dance. I know that's a great any kind of sports radio or sports program debate, but they get some time to kind of rest. So I won't say that Chelsea looks exactly fatigued. I haven't got a chance to watch it yet, but Chelsea beat Leicester City 5-2 today. Lauren James scored 2 goals and Sam Kerr got another goal. So they don't exactly look super tired, but Millie Bright didn't appear in that match either. So,
That's big.
maybe they're resting her a little more, but Chelsea, they look like they're in pretty good form too. So that's just going to be an absolute fucking, hopefully a classic we have on our hands.